Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this deep dive conversation on the second competency, which is about embodying the coaching mindset, right? So there are two parts. There are two key words that are important in the very title of this competency, or the very title of the framing that is there. One is the mindset, and the second is embody, right? Uh, as far as the title goes, it's not new. It has been in place for some time. It was there in the 2019 version as well, and over a period, it has this is one competency that has gone through, I must say, um, a significant amount of change, a lot of change in terms of the way this competency has been reframed, rephrased, and a lot of new elements have got added to this entire thing. So, what I would like to harness your interest towards is what is embodying a mindset mean? When you say embody something, what does it mean? And when you say embody a certain mindset, what does it mean? So, and it talks about the coaching mindset. So, we should be very clear what is that coaching mindset, right? So, that is where I think we need to also understand the key elements of the coaching mindset. And this is one competency which has underpinnings, or I would say influence on many other competencies as well, because this is who you are as a coach, and who you kind of are constantly referencing yourself against while you are in this coaching business, and not just in the coaching conversation, right? uh, it also I would also like to kind of discuss in this conversation today what enables or what stops us from uh, uh, you know embodying this mindset, or what comes in the way of mindset for coaches. Why coaches sometimes deviate from this, why coaches sometimes are unable to uh, do what is expected, right? So let's dive in closely. Before I go there, any comments on what we have set out as our typical agenda for the conversation? Is it okay to go with all of you? All right. Thank you, Aarti, for the thumbs up. Right. Okay. So if you look at it, what I have done is I have um, color coded the definition. In the color coded definition, if you see, um, uh, the red part is typically the new one, right? And the dark black font is what it used to be previously, right? So what it used to be is that it develops and maintains a mindset that is open, curious, flexible, and client-centered. So these are the four words that are the holy grail, so to say, which remain as it is, right? So if you see, we are not changing these, right? So what has changed is typically the yeah, yeah, if I may use this, right? What has changed is this, um, you know, some of these words have remained open, right? Curious, flexible, and client focused, right? Or client centered, as we call it, right? These have remained as is. But what has gotten new is this part, right? And so, what do you see here? What is the big change that you see here when you just look at the definition? What occurs to you? What is emerging to you?
So it makes it seem more like a living practice as opposed to just something that we got trained on and now we're ready to go and hit the market and get clients and coach. The ongoing process of improvement, of development.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a very valid and that's a very appropriate kind of reading. That this makes it a continuous living practice, right? That the constituents that the coaches continuously engage, not just maintain and develop, but continuously engage. And engage in what? In ongoing personal and professional learning and development. So, you know, ICF has always tried to kind of tell us that every 3 years you have to go and renew your license or you have to kind of go and revalidate your points. So, for that, you have the coach continuing education units and you have so many of that, right? But you and I know that being a coach or embodying a mindset is just not about attending a few conversations like this, or maybe heftier and brighter than this. So many people from my own practice, I can tell you that what they do is typically the last year, you have got a 3 year license, right? The last 6 months before you actually, your license is ending, right? And you are, say, you are not going to the next level, you are an ACC coach and you're not applying for PCC, or you're a PCC, you're not applying for MCC, but you're just renewing your license. What they do is they look up for courses right, left, and center, whether they're interested, not interested, whatever gives you the CCUs, and they try to get the CCUs in bulk. So there are courses which give you 20 CCUs, 25 CCUs, 40 CCUs, one course, right? Across the period of 3 years, for 3 months, or for 2 months, or sometimes even for 3 days or for 4 days. And they have got the CCU done and they have renewed their license. So that becomes what I would call is a tick in the box activity, right? And even for the new, I mean, that is not what they had in mind, probably, or what this is, and that is not what is called continuing coach education. Because continuing, it means continuous, it means that it has to happen regularly at a, I mean, you don't kind of say that it has to be every 2 months, one course or something like that. But as and when you need, as and when your client throws across to you a new situation, a new problem, or you come across a new dimension to what you are doing and who you are being as a coach, you upgrade yourself, you keep reading, you keep watching, you keep observing, you keep discovering inside you and outside you, right? So what it has happened is, uh, it has not become about going and doing courses. It is not like that, right? And we know, I mean, from our own experience, and not that I'm trying to equate it, but then what happens? I mean, we do our compliance courses, right? So 70, 20, 10 model of learning, the 10% that we get through the CCUs is not equal to the actual learning which happens by embodying the mindset, right? Embodying means practicing it, living it, reflecting upon it, and seeing what you are doing, right? So that is where I think this is a very important element. What else strikes to you? What are some of the new words that have come in that were not there? What are the new demands of you as a coach? Let's look at it, right? Shraddha, Neera, what do you see as some of the new words that have come in?
I think it is supervisors and mentor coaches.
Yes. So supervisors, if I'm not mistaken, still ICF does not have a um, competency framework or probably a clear-cut training program or a certification program for supervisors. The EMCC folks do have a very clear supervisor competency and a supervisor accreditation program that they run, right? But ICF is kind of recognizing the role of the supervisor and the role of the mentor coach, right? So now what would happen if you go to what would you that if you have a supervisor or if you have a mentor coach, why do you need them? They say as needed. So what could be the need that could make a Shraddha or a Ravi or a Neera or an Aarti go to a supervisor? Yes, Neera. I see your hand raised. Yes, Neera, you could come in. Okay. I think it's by mistake. Shraddha, Aarti, what would happen if you go to a supervisor? Why go to a supervisor? Why go to a mentor coach?
Okay,
Your
Ravi, I'm here.
practice
Oh, yeah.
evaluated.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. So, yeah, Aarti, you can go first. And Neera, can you just give Aarti the chance and then we'll take you?
Yes, please. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, Aarti.
Please.
To get your practice evaluated, sort of mentored by someone who's been doing it for longer. It's like being coached by another, probably more experienced coach.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a professional practice. So you are trying to create a professional apparatus, right? And in any professional service that you offer, one professional is always peer vetted by another professional. Right? If you look at who is to tell that this judge is good at his judgment, obviously other judges. So if that judge's judgments are appealed, what do other judges think about it? Who is to tell that this doctor has used the right methods? You go to another doctor. Who's to tell that this lawyer is good? Other lawyers. So stuff like that. So there is always this idea. There are two ideas here. One is peer vetting. You definitely go to your peers. You take their ideas, you take their suggestions, and see what you are doing. This is about the word that you used, Aarti, evaluation, right? Evaluation. Uh, Getting to know whether what I'm doing is right or wrong, or whether it is as right as it should be. The other part of it, the other part of the story, apart from, and that is the way, by the way, the evaluation part is the way mentoring got into all the coach accreditation courses. You need 10 hours of mentoring, you need 5 hours or 10 hours of mentoring for ACC, for PCC, for MCC, right? I mean, even in the portfolio method, if you know of, you can get training from various sources, but mentoring has to be there, right? So that is not something that is kind of that is not something that is kind of um, subject to negotiation. Now, that is from a validation standpoint, whether you're doing it right. There is a set of parameters, there are PCC markers, and you kind of mark yourself against them. You go ahead and do that. But I have also experienced coaching supervision personally. I've gone to a few supervisors, and also as a part of my own ACTC, the team coaching certification program, I've seen through supervisors. Supervision is not only just an evaluation space, it starts with that. That's the foundation. But the more importantly, it's a reflective space. It's a space where you bring many a times to a coaching supervisor, we don't bring in a recording for evaluation. We just relate an experience to say, this is what happened, this is what I have been doing, or this is how I am feeling in the last 1 month. And I've been coaching these kind of people. Okay? Or this is how I'm feeling about my practice as a coach. What do you think is going on? Obviously, this coaching supervisor is somebody who has been there, done that, is a person of experience. But more than just giving solutions to you, he kind of helps you to be in that reflective space and understand what is happening with you. and what needs to change. It's not as simple as saying that he gives you a start, stop, continue agenda, but you kind of come across a reflection that, okay, this is what I am doing, this is how it has been, this is living on me a very important impact. Here, my personal and professional lines are getting blurred, and I need to probably step back, or I need to kind of get onto the balcony and see myself. Now, when you have an institutionalized space like that, it makes a difference. It's much more than, say, a Shraddha calling up a Ravi, or a Ravi calling up a Neera and asking, "Hey, I am facing this. What do I do?" Right. But let me stop here. Neera, you wanted to say something. What is occurring to you?
Yeah, Ravi, I think you brought it up in similar words. So, what was occurring to me was that just as we become present for
Mm,
the client
mm,
in supporting through mirroring, providing reflective inquiry,
mm,
coaching supervision allows us the same space where we can have those experiences which we are going through mirrored in that space of non-judgment and non-bias to
mm,
recognize what we need to do to become better at what we do, course correct if needed, recognize what needs to change, etc. So
mm.
yeah, in some ways I think you brought it up already.
Right. So, if you ask me, typically the difference now, why differentiate between coaching supervisors and mentor coaches? What is the difference between the two? Why have two terms? Because every word that is a part of a competency, and then a competency definition has to be worth its salt, right? So, mentor coaches have been part of the ICF firmament for a very long time. But what is the difference between the two? What occurs to you? What is the difference between a coaching supervisor? What does a supervisor do that a mentor coach uh, may or may not do?
Supervision is probably just process, and mentoring is more into the being part of the coach, maybe.
So, Arti, in my experience, it is the other way around. The mentor coach is more about the process. Are you kind of following the competencies? What is in letter, in spirit? Coaching supervision is actually a lot more about the being. Who am I becoming? Who am I getting to be? How much do I know what is happening to me in this process? What am I becoming? How am I getting entangled? How do I need to disentangle myself? Or how do I need to resuscitate myself, right? Decompress myself. You use whatever word you want to, right? To understand the impact that it has upon us, so that I can reset my clock and keep the learning, distill the learning, but not let the conversation or the relationship, as it were, inflict or create barriers in the path of being open, curious, flexible, and client centered. Right. So that is my understanding. Of course, you guys can please feel free, open to challenge me and check it out if you have another way of looking at it. Right. So that is my understanding. So going a little deeper, right? So what are the new areas for the coaches to focus on? If you go by competency 2.0, what are the new areas for the coaches to focus on? Just looking at the definition, what is it that the coaches should do differently now? I mean, almost as a mandate, owing our allegiance to ICF. What is it that we are expected to do more of, less of?
I think one that comes up for me is to actively
Mm,
reach out and ensure that we are availing supervision
mm, mm, mm,
to do what you just articulated, to see
mm,
who we are becoming.
mm, mm. Yeah.
And that, I think, by itself is a process that keeps us honest
Mm.
in the practice to make sure that we are continuing to evolve to
Mm.
be what we need to be for the client.
Mm. Availing supervision. Okay. What else?
I think in addition to that, I would also look at constant ongoing reflection, which we
Mm.
do and should continue to maintain rigorously.
Mm. Mm.
Um, the way it's also coming up for me is that it should not be limited only to the client conversation.
Mm.
It's also about who we are
Mm.
outside of those conversations.
Mm. Reflect on who we are. Right. I'm just trying to, uh, you know, jot down what you're saying. Reflect on who we are.
Yeah,
Uh,
because I think the other thing that comes up, Ravi, is that this is one area of work where
mm.
it is not a switch on, switch off, where you say, okay, now I'm sitting in a coaching conversation, so I'm suddenly switching on to
Mhm.
become somebody else.
Right.
This
Right.
is this is a space which
Mm.
constantly demands that inner work of ourselves
Mm. Mm.
to continue to, like you say,
Mm. Mm.
assess who we are becoming in the process, so that
Mm.
every conversation that happens subsequently allows us
Mm.
that space to be present
Mm.
in the authenticity of who we need to be.
Mm. 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 Yeah. In fact, this is, I think, this, I would say coaching is a very generative profession. What do I mean by that? Um, and I'm speaking this with a oblique reference to a lot of what is now also coming through as AI driven coaching, etc., etc. We learn when we coach. We learn. We learn about ourselves. We learn about others. We learn about new things. We learn every time we are coaching, we are creating something new. And we are just not learning in terms of information, but we are also creating and helping create new insights. So that is a very important element in coaching. It's a very generative process, right? It has got, you know, like what Otto Schrammer says in theory, you listen at 4 levels, right? The first level you listen to is by open hearing. You just hear to the sound, and then you listen to it by at the data level, and then you listen to it at an emotion level, and then you listen to it at a generative level, right? So we also got to listen to it at a generative level, continuously assess who we are, right? Because we are supposed to be compassionate, we are supposed to be empathetic, we are supposed to be all of that. Now, if you typically look at the idea of empathy, it has got two dimensions to it. And if I may just uh, if I may just try to draw this out for you, uh, I hope I am able to. Right. Okay. Right. So you know what? At one level is our ability to what I would call as at one level is our ability to just a second. That's not good. At one level is our ability to emote, right? Which is very important. One level is our ability to emote, deal with our emotion. The other is the what do we do with it? Actions, right? What do we do with it? Now, you know, we don't emote, we are not active, we can be what is called as indifferent, right? Something happened, I just let the information flow past us. We emote a little bit, but really don't get into anything else. We can take, what typically would call as pity, right? We can take, oh, so bad it happened. right? We can stay disengaged. We get a little more, we ask some curious questions. We also share a story that this happened with me. We sympathize, right? Then we do a little more, we create into a reflective space, ask them how can they avoid it, etc., etc. What are they going to do about it? How is it going to help them? Who are they becoming? We are empathizing, right? And then we even go a little further, right? We make it upon us to kind of remind them what is happening, kya ho raha hai bhai. That's not about, you're going through this change. Hope you're doing fine. Is there something that I can do with you? I mean, between the two coaching conversations, reaching out, talking to them, giving them a little bit of resuscitation, we are being what I would call as compassionate, right? So, at which level is our engagement? And, um, you know, believe me, in a coaching conversation, not everything that the client says we empathize with. Not everything that the client says we are compassionate towards. Right? There are things that we are indifferent as well. We have been hearing this again and again. Why have we become indifferent? Forget about being pitiful, but we are being indifferent. Oh, there he goes. And there's a long 15-minute, soliloquy by the client, and then you kind of, okay, tell me what are the three things happening. You ask them to summarize. So you sympathize, you are there with them, but still something is stopping you. What is stopping you? And that is where the embodying the coaching mindset comes into play. Right? And it is not an invalid response, Shraddha, Neera, Aarti. I don't want to characterize that response of asking the client to summarize as an invalid response. That's a valid response. That's a way to make the client come to the heart of the matter and talk about the real issue and stop doing candy flossing. But what is it that it is doing to us? Do we switch off in a 15-minute soliloquy? Do we still remain in the game? Do we still listen to them? Are we embodying? Right? Do you get my point? Are we embodying? Are we still picking up the keywords? Are we still able to reflect back upon that 15-minute later on and say, like, apart from the summary, you said that you feel dejected when you do this. What do you mean by it? Say, for example, the person said, I feel dejected. Right? And that's not a word that they repeated in the summary. Right? Or I feel afraid, or I feel fearful, or I feel kind, or they mentioned something which was worth taking note of. Right? You're getting my point, right? So, what are we trying to do? There are times when we use a question to index something. So they speak for some time, or they are relating something, and then you say, so what is emerging to you now? I can see a change in your expression. That's empathy. I can see a change in your expression. But before that, what happened? How did I come across as? Right? What happened to my presence? What happened to my coaching avatar? And has it left me thinking? Also, has it left me neutral? No, Shraddha, it's very easy to say I'm neutral. Right? But every piece of thought that the client has is getting filtered through our own value system, right? Whether we like it or not. So what ICF is now saying is that, like what Neera said, continuously assess who you are being and who you are becoming. That is the key part to it. Who you are being and who you are becoming. What data are you picking up? What data you are not picking up? Why did you pick up on that particular word? So the client said, I feel very dejected and I feel very sad about this entire thing. So dejected, what do you mean by it? Now, why did that word dejected capture your imagination? As much as it says something about the client, it also says something about you. Why did you pick up that word? Why not something else? So the focus, therefore, is kind of coming back to the coach, the agency of the coach, right? And what Aarti was saying, that Ravi, it's always a two-way process. Yes, it has always been a two-way process. And if you see, ICF has always been extremely client-centric. It has always been very client-centric. It has always said, do the best for your client. The client is ultimately the guy who's giving you the time, the money, the resources. For you to become a coach, he is giving you the opportunity. Of course, fine. But if you do not observe yourself of who you are becoming in that process as a coach, you will not be optimally serving the need of the client. Right? You will be not optimally serving the need of the client. Right? Who do you call yourself? Oh, I am an executive coach. So you embody that practice. No, I am a career coach. You embody that practice. Why do you differentiate? You're a career coach. Why are you not doing life coaching? Right? Because you're embodying that practice. Right? So there is also within that category of embodying as a coach, you have kind of found a niche and you have made that niche your home. Your specialization. You have done reading in that area. You have done developed capabilities in that area. You have gotten tools, you have gotten expertise, and you know what to do with it. So ICF in a way is also encouraging us to find our niche, right? Or not find our niche. Again, it's telling us it's your choice. You want to remain a general practitioner of coaching, please be. But then that is what it is going to be, right? So probably we are in that profession where in the nascent stages we have some specialities which are getting developed. There are some of us who are generically getting trained, right? I have seen, probably Neera, Shraddha, you would have also seen, Aarti, you would have also seen, there are like inclusion and diversity coaches. They're getting trained as that. Then there are somatic coaches. They're getting trained as that. Then there are ontological coaches. Some of the specialization is in the way you coach. Some of the specialization is in the way of what you coach. And some of the specialization is in the way of who you coach. So the way you coach is more about ontological, somatic, NLP, all of that kind of stuff. The tools that you use, right? So some of them say, no, we do evidence-based coaching. So that is what it is. Then there is who you coach. I coach executives. I only coach career. I only coach me. I only do life coaching. So what you coach and who you coach, right? I coach only CXOs. You would have seen, right? Coaches writing on LinkedIn that they're leadership coaches. They only coach CXOs. So they're clearly saying, this is who I embody myself as a coach. This is my specialization. Right? I have enough experience. I have been there, done that, and I have kind of gathered it, and I can add value to you, and I'm going to operate in that area. Right? So that is the fundamental construct that they have. Okay. So if you typically look at it, that is what we are kind of trying to get into. Right. All right. So moving forward, okay. All right. So if you typically take a closer look at the behavioral markers, right? That's what we call them, isn't it? Um, uh, some people call it the sub-definitions, if there's something like that, right? The behavioral markers or indicators of this coaching embodying the mindset. See, engages with ongoing learning and development as a coach. It used to just leave it at that. Now look at the way it is kind of indexing it. You just don't develop yourself as a coach, but you are aware of the current coaching practices. You are a professional, right? I cannot come to you. I mean, I can give an analogy. I cannot go to a doctor who does not know beyond ampicillin, right? I would expect him to know the latest and the best of the medicines that are available. And it is expected of them to keep themselves abreast. They might have graduated or they might have gone through a certain education at a certain point in time. But they are kind of keeping themselves abreast of the current practices, right? The current coaching practices, the current game. And what is it? Which means, and look at it, they're not just talking about the practices. They're also talking about the use of technology. Right? I say it is very clearly indicating that technology does play a significant role. Technology does play a significant role. What happens? What are the things that you can do over a Zoom that you cannot do over Microsoft Teams? Or what are the things that you can do on a WhatsApp call that you cannot do on some other media? So what is it that you are giving? What is the use of having an LMS as a coach? How does it help you to create follow-ups? Should you even invest in one? It is not going down to that level and telling you, but that's technology, right? I mean, many coaches, I would tell you of the little that I know, maybe a lot of us don't maintain a professional LMS, right? An individual coach buying LMS licenses, but then there are service providers today who come and give you, right? So stuff like that. So forget about jotting down number of hours. You can actually use an LMS. Move out of your Excel sheet, give them an assessment or an assignment, and the LMS will send them reminders. So here you are using the technology to be a coach, right? To be a coach, you can set out that it will set out 5 reminders. You're meeting the person after a month. In these 5 months, these are the reminders that will go, and the reminders will go on the 5th day, the 15th day, the 20th day, and the 25th day, and the 28th day. This is going to be written in those reminders. You can actually pre-program that. You can pre-program the text of those reminders. This is an article that will go to my client on the 2nd week after he has finished this work. So if the client comes back with the assignment, then the client is going to get this reading material. If the client does not come back, does not submit it on the tool, the client does not get the reading material. That kind of abilities these LMSs have. Neera, do you use an LMS? Shraddha, Aarti, do you use any one of you who uses a coaching management system or a learning management system like this?
No.
Right. So see, I mean, you can, now what does it bring? It brings many things to you. It brings
Yeah.
structure. Yeah, Neera.
Yeah. I was saying not yet.
Not yet, right? So it brings scale to you, right? It brings scale to you. Say you have 40 coaching clients and 10 from 3 or 4 different organizations, and you're working with them. Some have very similar goals, right? And probably some of them you are doing group coaching as well. So a lot of these practices are now making the firmament of coaching change. Right? So it's kind of dividing the coaching community into 2 parts. One who do pure play only that conversation, and the other who use a lot of these technologies and other things and bring a different experience to the client. Not that they don't do the conversation plus something else, right? And not that this was not happening when it was not spelled out in the 2025 ICF update, right? I mean, I started getting exposed or starting to use a coaching LMS maybe a couple of years ago, right? So, it has been in picture, it has been in play. There are Indian service providers, for your information, who do it. Right? And if you do get yourself uh, empaneled with some of the folks like Ezra or BetterUp or some of them, you will be required to work through an LMS. Okay? Provide the substance or the summary of the conversation in the LMS. And it will bring to you lots of other questions. Questions on confidentiality, questions on what do you say, how do you say, etc., etc. All those things will also come in, right? Okay. So the other thing is, it has brought in, or it has recognized the word biases, right? So 2.4, it always used to talk about the impact of culture on self and others. Context was always very important, but also the first word that it brings in is biases, right? You never step into the same river twice. Either you have changed or the river has changed. So either you have gotten a bias or the river has gotten a bias. So something has happened, right? So that is the thing that it is talking about, that it does leave us with biases. Now, are you a coach who is able to see that with your awareness, having your conversation with your coaching supervisor or not? And now, if you see 2.10, 2.9, and a lot of 2.7 is absolutely new. In fact, uh, 2.7 has been completely rehashed, right? Uh, from coaching or the coach's presence being a psychocognitive process where you think rationally and you think emotionally and you are a part of the coaching conversation. It has now become almost a process of well-being, right? Look at the word. They've brought in well-being, maintains emotional, physical, and mental well-being. If you are yourself not mentally well, you are in no business of coaching. You are not in the business of coaching. Throughout, which is before, during, after, right? And following each session. So it also tells you, if 2 sessions in a day wear you out, don't do the third. Right? So this is where the continuous evaluation, which Neera was indexing, comes in. What is happening to you after each conversation? What is it? There's this, I think the word is palimpsest, right? It's the mark that is left on a piece of paper after you rub off the ink or the pencil mark with an eraser. Right? There's a little bit of a mark, right, which is there on the paper, formed by the pressure of the pen or the pencil or something like that. So it leaves a residue. It's called, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the word is just let me reconfirm it to you. Palimpsest. Yes, palimpsest. Yes. So every time you write, right, and you overwrite sometimes, you're overwriting. Remember those older cassette days or CD days when we used to overwrite, or we overwrite on so there is, that data is never lost, right? You may have thought that you have erased that data. Similarly, the coach, what is it happening to the coach? How has he erased that data? How has he erased that experience? Right? And what this definition is also talking about is that experiences outside the coaching session also impact your emotional and physical well-being. So if you had a frosty conversation with someone that morning, by all means be prepared to be ready to put that aside and do whatever it takes to be 100% there in the coaching session. And that's a competency you have. You should have perfected that art. Right? You should have perfected that art. And I think if you ask me, Ravi, what occurs to you? In many ways, this embodying the coaching mindset, this particular competency 2.0 is making the entire coaching profession much more hard and professional and codified. Would you agree with that observation of mine? Shraddha, Neera, Aarti, would you agree with that? It is making it very codified now. It is very explicit. There's as much as it can be put into black and white.
So, Ravi, I'm happy to share what's coming up for me. So, one, I agree with what you're saying. And two, what emerges for me is ICF is probably also getting more focused on ensuring that when they call themselves a gold standard, they also hold themselves to it by ensuring that the coaches who work as part of the ICF philosophy can hold themselves to it as well. So that's the way I think about it when it comes up for me.
I completely agree with you that ICF is also aware of the booming coaching industry, the rapid growth, the number of people getting certified, things like that, and cliques and cabals getting formed, if you may ask that, like every other profession, right? Profession has always had guilds, any profession. I mean, give it goldsmith, give it blacksmith, make it clocksmith or anyone, right? They've always had guilds, right? So, when they come across, there is certain standard that they would have to follow. They have to represent something. I mean, we as coaches, we still don't put a PCC sticker on the back of our car, right?
And not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea, na? Good marketing idea, right? ICF and put a sticker just like an advocate has or any other profession has. Why not? Why not do that? Why not have a pre-decided emoticon that can be an emoji or a logo or a hologram that can be done. So what I'm trying to say is the more you try to quote unquote brand yourself as a coach, with greater power comes greater responsibility. So it is now these responsibilities are clearly enshrined in the competencies, right? Look at it, nurtures openness. Coaches were always expected to be open. They were always expected to be curious, right? And they're saying you got to be curious about yourself, curious about the process that you have been using for last 20 years. You have coached for more than 10,000 hours. That may need a relook. Are you open to it? Right. So another thing that occurs to me, right? It is asking us coaches to be coach-like outside the coaching as well. Look at Competency 2.10. Remains aware of the influence of one's thoughts and behaviors on clients. I would have been happy till that point. But it also says on others. Now, who are these others? Aware of your influence of your thoughts and behavior. On the client is okay. That is where my purview as a coach or as a coaching contract exists. Right. But on others and others. See, this is the point that draws my attention. Right. This is where I think it is asking us to maintain a coach-like persona in other walks of life as well, in other roles that we play. I'm open to inspection and interpretation and your thoughts, right?
Yeah, I'm happy to share here that this is probably what I was referring to when my point of it's not a switch on, switch off, it's about who we are
Yeah,
becoming.
yeah, who we are becoming and others. It's just not about that client. It's just not about that process. It's just not. So the more we grow, the more we face our shadow, the more, each conversation unravels a part of ourselves. We grow or we develop or we change. Forget the word develop, grow. We change as a person as well, right? And every conversation is rewriting our own conversations. Right? We can't say that, oh, this is just a coaching conversation, and I cannot present what I call as a laminated self. Right? Laminated self. It's like a certificate that you have laminated. If somebody touches it with a greased hand, no mark will be left on you. So if you're getting into a coaching conversation, you're not carrying yourself laminated. You are telling yourself as vulnerable. You're carrying yourself susceptible to influence, right? While you're trying to influence has always been a two-way street, right? So that is one thing that I want to index here, right? Now, one of the things that I have found very useful, and maybe this is not new to any one of you, right? This is a very, not old, but a very celebrated piece of work of Chris Argyris on ladder of inference, made famous by Peter Senge in his fifth discipline, etc. It is in many ways a way, a tool for both for the coach and for their clients. I've used it with clients, I've used it with myself as well. And I've used it with myself very, I must say, in a way, very helpfully, profitably, to look at to hear my own coaching recordings. Right. So when I ask a question, why did I ask that question? What did I observe? What data made me ask that question? So I see a smile on your face. So that's a data that you observe. Right. Now I select that smile and I ask a question. And I add my cultural and personal meaning that that smile could have been sarcastic, that smile could have been gladness, that smile could have been boredom. What is that smile? I reconfirm that, right? And was that smile something as a result of this conversation? Was that smile as a result of some previous memory that came through? What caused that smile? So here are my assumptions. Now, what is it making me? What is that smile doing of the client doing to me? What conclusions am I making? Should I ask more of these kind of questions so that the client keeps smiling? Should I stop asking? Maintain gravitas? Do what? What conclusions am I making? So does smiling mean that I lack gravitas? Is that a belief that I carry? Or is it becoming too flippant? This conversation should be very formal and structured and very meaningful because there's too much of laughing and rancor. Therefore, my belief system says that it should have been much more somber because the client wanted a change in himself. Should I? What is my belief? What is my belief around that? And therefore, how do I react based on that belief? How do I frame my next question? Right? Now, this is the same set of inference that the client also gives us. Now, what happens is the part of this reflexive loop is the next time the client smiles, I don't ask the client, why are you smiling? The first time I do ask, I go through the entire ladder. The next time I jump onto the ladder. I can jump onto the ladder with the data. I can jump onto the ladder by looking at the data and adding my cultural meaning very subconsciously and just going along. Right. So this is what the embodiment part is, the mindset, right? What it is being towards. Now, if we are constantly looking at all the phases of the ladder, we are in a way giving ourselves a chance, a tool, right? To embody, to stay, to question, to observe ourselves and see, right? Because one of the thoughts that I had was, how do I know who I am becoming through this conversation? What has happened to me? What did I say? How did I look at it? We listen typically to the conversation of the client very, very much through this prism. We are trained and taught to do it. But when we evaluate our own recordings, forget the 8 competencies that we have. For a moment, just let's take 3 sentences or 10 minutes. In these 10 minutes, what beliefs of mine did I showcase? How did they come through? What conclusions was I drawing? Where was I traveling in the conversation? What was I comfortable with? What was I not comfortable with? All of this can come through with this ladder of inference, knowing where we are on the ladder, which leg of the ladder we are on, and what are we doing with it. How does this tool sit with you? I'm sure many of you would have seen this before. I think Aarti dropped off. I don't know. Neera, Shraddha, how does this tool sit with you?
Yes, it sits well. I hear your perspective. It's a very useful one.
Yeah.
Good way to also deploy the ladder of inference for self-assessment.
Yeah. We typically use it a lot, right? The wheel of life, the ladder of inference for doing work with our clients, right? But I think if you turn the focus of the baton, the focus of the torch to yourselves inside, you'll probably see a lot more emerging, right? And for me, this is also a ladder which turns data into insights and insights into actionable intelligence, right? So it kind of brings forth some of those. The other thing is we are talking about the body part. Any piece of information, any action that I choose to take is based on my beliefs and is changing my body. There is a subtle shift. And this is, I'm sure you may have come through this. This is called the heat map of emotions. So this heat map tries to tell you that very physiologically, emotions play a definitive role in creating a biological reference point inside our body. So in a way, it opens up the windows of what has now been so famously talked about as somatic therapy or somatic coaching and stuff like that, right? What does it bring in? So if we are angry, look at the part of our body which is experiencing a higher temperature, right? You can go to that PNAS website and take a look. They have done an experiment with 700 odd individuals, asking them to respond to different sets of words and situations, and have kind of done a study of their body temperature and have come up with this. Right? Okay. So look at what happens when you are happy. Look at what happens to you when you feel loved. And look at the apart similarity between pride and anger. Right? So our ability to, one, understand what is going on inside our body, acutely observing it, and being able to label it, right, is a necessity that is a part of this embodying of the coaching mindset. Now, how do we make this into actionable intelligence? There's a beautiful piece of work done by this person called Mark Brackett, right? So Mark has done a fantastic work. The name of this book is Permission to Feel, right? And uh, uh, referenced hugely by Daniel Goleman and others. In even Daniel Goleman's work called Optimal brings about a reference to this tool. It's called the mood meter, right? How much of energy, how much of pleasantness, what is it doing to you, right? You can actually see low energy, low pleasantness, despair versus ecstatic, two ends of the spectrum, right? You're enraged, very high energy, but very low pleasantness, versus you're serene, very low energy, but very high pleasantness. Now, why am I bringing this tool to you? It's not just about academic repository. After you finish a coaching conversation, how do I feel? Or how did I feel? Or when you hear a recording of your own, how do I feel? I feel frightened. Oh, why do I feel frightened? I feel angry. Why do I feel angry? I feel nervous. What if I make this mistake again? Why do I feel that way? So what it does is it gives you what I call as, for the want of a better word, it's like an Asian Paints shade card, which tells you exactly, okay, how am I feeling? So it matches the color. And then from there on, it is for you to go deeper into it. Oh, I feel very motivated. I feel motivated when I hear myself saying this. This is how I feel after this conversation. I feel extremely grateful. Oh, right. But I don't feel touched. I feel a little more than satisfied. So I find this to be a good tool, a useful tool. Right? I won't call it a great tool or a ultimate tool, but it's a great tool to just reflect, start a reflection. Right? Coaching is a reflective practice. Start a reflection. Okay, it doesn't mean anything to me. I feel apathetic. So neither it doesn't mean, but with a tinge of obviously unpleasantness. It doesn't bother me. So fine, I'm at ease. I can continue. Right? Your thoughts on this one? How do you think this you can use this?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to put it to use. I think that's some good couple of things that you've talked about, which can be very useful.
Yeah, because you see what is happening is, and I'm just sharing this to you with no sense that these are the only tools. Of course, there are HR tools like this. But the point
Right.
is, how do we stay current? The competency is asking us to stay current. We have to keep on looking at it. We have
Hmm.
we have to help ourselves, we have to help our clients. First, use it yourself, right? And then see how it works with you, how it sits with you, what has been your usefulness. And then, if required, send it to your client. You can even do it before a conversation. You're feeling very charged. So see, where are you? Are you feeling tense? Are you feeling shocked? Are you feeling angry? Are you feeling apprehensive?
Sure.
Right.
So, Ravi, sorry, I'm interrupting here, but just
So,
wanted a quick time check. I have a call
yeah,
that needs to
no,
start in a
I
few
think
minutes.
I'm also more or less towards the end of it. So I just wanted to stop here and ask you what has been your takeaways, Shraddha, Neera. We lost Aarti, right? Oh, she has a child who's not keeping well. Child recovers soon.
Yes.
What's occurring to
Yeah. I think one, it's been a reaffirmation of the need to continue to be in a space of reflection and awareness, and how that becomes pertinent for how we show up, not just in our conversation, but also outside of that.
Mhm.
What we are becoming, not
Mhm.
just within the confines of the conversation, but also outside of that.
Mhm.
And for me, also, the last three tools that you kind of shared have raised my curiosity to see how I can apply them for my own reflections.
Mhm. I'm glad.
And and
Sure.
and not to miss on the fact that, the detailing in terms of how we've looked at different dimensions of embodiment
Mhm.
of that mindset.
Thank you, Neera. Shraddha, any thoughts of yours while we close?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I think ICF wants us. ICF is evolving with time, and I think they want us to evolve and to grow, and whatever help we can do in the terms of internal reflections or external support, they want us to go for it. So I think that is what stood out for me, that they're also constantly changing, and they are providing us with tools, how we can use those tools for growing as a coach. And then, of course, that somatic thing, because I've heard coaches ask, where are you feeling that pain or whatever it is? And I could never figure out what sense does it make. So now I think it makes perfectly good sense when I saw, those heat graphs mapping. Yeah.
So, just to clarify, it always may not be that you're feeling it there, right? But what it does is it helps the individual to index a feeling.
Mm.
So when people say, as a matter of language, there's a knot in my stomach, I feel like breaking my head. All
Yeah.
these have references to the body.
Yeah.
To look at the way the Western world has always looked, they have looked at the body as a secondary site of imagination. Okay?
Mm.
That is what it is. Thank you so much, Neera. Thank you so much, Shraddha. And
Thank you. Thanks a
Abhyudaya
lot.
for giving me this opportunity to bring thoughts to you on this very important ICF competency and the changes. Have a good time ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi. Thanks a lot.